Welcome everyone to another episode of the Discover New Music podcast from us at Full Pelt Music. This week we're going to be joined by Light Grey, but before then, the usual reminders from myself. If you would, please do follow Full Pelt on social media. We're on Facebook at Full Pelt and on Twitter and Instagram at Full Pelt Music. And finally, if you would, please do hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, wherever you're watching or listening. Welcome, Ciaran from Light Grey to the Discover New Music
Hey,
podcast. How are you doing this
how's
evening?
it going? I'm doing good, thanks you.
Yeah, well, as I say, I've had a busy day today, but I've been looking forward to chatting with you all day because this is an exciting time for Light Grey. So we've got a lot we can delve into.
Oh
But
yeah.
before we get into that, being the Discover New Music podcast, we like to hope people are going to discover some new music. So we always have an icebreaker that we call the origin story. And, it's for people to discover a little bit about the band that perhaps don't know much about you. Now, a lot of the bands that I talked to on this podcast, because I started this podcast in 2020, and we all know what happened in 2020. So a lot of the bands I talked to
For sure.
formed during that time. Whereas obviously Light Grey have been around not too much longer than that, but certainly a little bit longer than that. So
Yeah.
obviously it's a slightly different story perhaps to what we normally get. But yeah, how did Light Grey come together?
Yeah, we definitely made it through the pandemic somehow. Um, to be honest, it was actually a good thing for us because it gave us loads of time to figure out like what we wanted to be and things like that. But I'm sidetracking. So yeah, essentially, me and my best friend Mikey, he is our guitarist. The two of us have been making music since we were teenagers. We actually went to school across the road from each other, and we had like common friends and things like that. So we knew of each other, and we liked a lot of the same bands and things like that. We were both very much like the emo kids, the scene kids, things like that. And yeah, one day I actually moved to the UK to go and study music, and I we kept in touch briefly, kind of in and out, and then he started showing me like oh, I've been recording this, and I was showing him all the stuff I was working on, and we are both super interested in what each other were doing. So we actually started the band kind of in completely separate countries, which is kind of cool. Like it's such I'm sure it's so much more common today, but at the time it was like, it wasn't so common. And what we would do is just send each other demos. We'd add our little bit over to it because Mikey was great at playing bass and guitar, and I could play drums and sing. So we kind of had a full band between us. And anyway, as time went on, it actually came closer. I finished my college degree, and I actually ended up moving back to Ireland to study more music, which obviously I can't get enough of. And yeah, we decided, okay, cool. Before we actually started like growing properly, we did try and form another band with some more friends, but it didn't really work out. We weren't as interested in it. It wasn't really our thing. And so we're like, okay, cool. We're going to go full on into this. So we wrote a little EP, and we actually went and recorded it with my friend in the UK. And yeah, the rest was history. And that's as they say. Yeah.
Yeah, it absolutely is, and it is interesting, like you say, some of the similarities with the bands that I talk about. Coming together during the pandemic, having to record together remotely and send the demos between each other, and obviously, yeah, trendsetters, I guess, like Gray doing that before it was
Yeah,
before it
for
was
sure.
popular. But yeah, obviously delighted that you persevered through it all, and obviously we're heading towards the release of Nightmares, your debut album, which we'll get into again in a moment, but. As is tradition, I always like to ask about the single that we're featured over on our accompanying playlist. So for Light
Yep.
Grey, that single is Director's Cut. And again, listeners, go and listen to the playlist or the single wherever you can find it these days, streaming platforms and everywhere. So, for listeners, that have hopefully heard that or are now going away to listen to it, what can you tell us about the song? What is Director's Cut about, and how did it come together for you?
Yeah, like Director's Cut is actually the first track we wrote for the album, and it actually came because we had released our EP. We weren't really sure what direction we wanted to go in. We were very much like I don't know, we kind of loved the way that Stand Atlantic had like a little bit of a heavier pop punk thing going on, but also we wanted to make it our own. So we've always been very much like, how do we mix like so many weird things together? So it actually started off from a vocal melody that I had for another song, and I took that into my music editing software and I chopped it up into a bunch of weird things, which you can hear at the start. It's kind of like it's a bit weird, but yeah. So it came off of that, and then just built it up, and it just became this big song. And I was like, oh, this is great. Okay, cool. I guess we'll aim to write an EP off of that, which evidently turned into an album. But Director's Cut specifically is kind of about like being being like cut being cut out of a bunch of things. So we all kind of have this similar, oh, I wouldn't say all, but like a lot of people have this similar thing where, you might be in this relationship that's like not good for you, but you keep going along with it. And God, I'm trying to think of like some of the lyrics. It's like, when you're on the spot, but yeah. So yeah, specifically, it's about when someone says that they want one thing, but you might be exactly what they're looking for, but they just don't see it. Like it's right in front of them. But eventually at some point you've got to like realize that you're not actually ever going to be in that position. So you kind of have to almost cut yourself off, if that makes sense.
That really does. Unfortunately, I'm definitely one of those people that can relate to that, which is always a great thing for a song to be a lot relatable, and obviously listeners can apply their own
Yeah.
backstories to the lyrics and to the song and make it their own.
Yeah.
That's the special thing about music, which I love, and it's a great track to do that to, and just a great track in general, to be fair as well. So listeners definitely need to go and obviously check it
Oh, thank
out
you so much.
if you haven't. Yeah, absolutely. And um, similar kind of question next, actually, because uniquely for Light Grey, I'm going to talk about a single we featured on a different one of our playlists, and not our Discover New Music playlist. We also featured something new on our Spotify hot list
Mm,
when it came out. So obviously, another great track. Otherwise, we wouldn't have stuck it on there. So listeners need to go and listen to that one as well. But
thank you so much.
in particular, I want to delve into the video. But just to give the listeners
Mm.
obviously a flavour of the song before we do that, similar kind of question. What is something new about? What does it mean to you?
Yeah, something new actually, like aside from the background of the story, is actually such a special song to us in general because it's actually the first song that all of us had a contribution in. So like I was saying earlier, normally it's me and Mikey, we write the songs and we produce it and mix it ourselves. But this one was the first one where everyone had an input. So Alan, our drummer, actually sings like he actually made the chorus hook, which is like my favorite thing ever because it's been so long of me doing it. It's so refreshing to have someone else just step in and be like, "Hey, look, I've got this idea." So yeah, that was really exciting. As far as the track itself, we just wanted to do like a classic kind of pop punk song. We didn't necessarily want to do anything like too light gray. There is a hint of that with like the electronics that are there, but definitely, yeah, that one's so exciting. We love that one so much.
As do I. I just love pop punk. Straight up
Yeah,
pop punk is one of other genres. Can come in and out of fashion, both like within society, but also within your own mind. You'll have phases of liking certain types of music. But for me, pop punk's
yeah,
that steady. That's just always been there because it's never gone away. It's always just been
yeah,
that like comfort blanket almost. Is pop punk, and it's a great
for
song
sure.
to represent that, in my opinion. And equally, like, as I say, I want to touch on the music video, and it's a comforting video in a way to me because I'm a massive music video fan. I love music videos, talk about them on this
Yeah,
podcast constantly. And I love the kind of mashup style of the video, and it's got a classic kind of pop punk feel to it, actually. But having just heard your description, obviously, it's the first song where everyone in the band kind of worked together on it. To me, that just adds another layer now, knowing that to the video, because obviously the video is
yeah.
some great moments of all of you, that you've captured throughout the last, year or two, I guess. So, I mean, the video for it, how did you come up with the concept for it? How did you put it into practice?
Yeah, honestly, like Oscar, our bassist, he's done all of our videos so far, and Oscar has always like again, this is another like thing where everyone contributed to this. Oscar has always wanted to do like a montage video where it's like we just take bits of like us having fun, nothing too crazy, and I think it really worked. Like it really added to it because just going back to kind of the theme of it and things like that, like something new is definitely about like you know losing your sense of kind of direction and things like that. And definitely like me personally, I feel like just having your mates around just like fixes that totally. Like just being able to go out, let loose, have fun, it means so much. And I think that video just sums it up so well because again, like I said, some of our best moments are there and we got to share it with you know all of each other. Even there's some clips there from when we supported like Tiger's Jaw, which was our first like big support slot, and that was like I'm so glad that that's kind of encapsulated in that one little thing. It's really cool.
Yeah, no, it really is. It's going to be great for you to always look back on as well, and obviously give you the memories
Yeah,
of such a great time. And again, this is that style of video that just gives, I think, the person watching it just a sense of their own nostalgia as well. You watch that and you see other people having fun,
yeah,
and it brings back memories of you and you've had fun with your friends, and obviously time's gone past, maybe friends that you're not are not around anymore. So it's just a great video to help obviously build a stronger connection. I always think music videos are great at doing that between a band and a listener. So yeah, no, absolutely fantastic. And there'll be a
yeah,
link in the
100%.
bio. Listeners, definitely
Great.
go and check it out if you haven't already. And then coming up, leading all this leads to obviously Nightmares, 27th of September. That's when listeners are going to get
Correct.
to have a listen. I have had a cheeky sneak peek, and obviously I'm prepping a
Oh
review
yeah,
for it,
love
which is going to be obviously fantastic because again, it's just like such a I keep coming back to the word comforting, which is weird, but it is just that's
it.
the
Yeah,
sort of vibe I get off it. It's just like a video, sort of an album, that just gives me just that sense of, I guess, my adolescence and being a bit of a skater
yeah,
boy and pop punk and all of that. It just it feels homely to
yeah,
me. So it's such a great album. So yeah, I've obviously just said my thoughts on it, and you've had it a lot
yeah.
longer with the album, of course, than I have because you made it. Being your debut album as well, and obviously the journey you've been on, and probably having sat on some of these songs for quite a while because that's how things work these days.
Mm.
I mean, the simple question at this point: what are we? About 10 days, 9 days away from release. How excited are you?
Oh, like I cannot explain how excited I am. Like I'm like a bundle of like excitement, but also nerves and like also I don't know, like it's all very like new to us as well because we've been on this like whole single EP thing for so long. And it's so exciting to actually put something out where like someone can sit down and just listen to it like through because we really thought a lot about how we were going to like sequence all of this. So like to give some background into it before it even comes out, it's technically kind of split into two sections because it's called Nightmares. There's a whole waking side of it and there's a whole sleeping side of it. So the first half of the album is very much like um, it's kind of upbeat. It's kind of the pop punk side, or at least the awake part. And then there's a part in the middle where it all just switches up and goes into this kind of weird dream world. And then you'll find that like at the end, it's all just about like mostly my kind of experience with sleep and things like that because I've always struggled with it. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. But yeah, to answer your question, like specifically, we are beyond excited. I think we're nervous as well, but that's only natural.
Yeah, absolutely only natural. Yeah, when you're putting something out into the world and opening yourself to
Yeah.
critique and feedback to it, it's always going to be exhilarating but nerve-wracking, I'm sure. And hopefully, I say positive feedback from me for sure. It's a fantastic album. Hopefully, it
Hmm.
alleviates
Thank you.
some of that. But for listeners, you've given a bit of a glimpse, and obviously there is a kind of concept that flows throughout the record. If I was to say to you, put your salesman hat on it and try and pitch this album
Hmm.
to someone to get them to listen to it, how would you go about doing that? What would you say?
Ooh. I think like in the in the world that we're in today with the whole singles kind of thing, everyone's always releasing singles. And I feel like this is something kind of exciting in the sense that we genuinely thought long and hard about how this was going to work. As I said, like it originally started as an EP, and then just all this stuff just came flowing out of us, and we just couldn't stop writing. It was such a weird experience because we've never had that before. Um, so for a world full of singles to have something again, like you said earlier about this being comforting and also kind of nostalgic, there's also this whole thing inside it of honestly just listen to it from start to finish and you'll get it. And I think that's like the most important thing for me to say as far as like, you know, being my little salesperson. I think it's really important for someone just to sit down, listen to it, and take it all in. I think there's so much on there that we've added as far as kind of Easter eggs and things like that. There's so many weird little sounds that you have to look out for. Like we're kind of, we always joke with songs. Like we have songs in the past where we've like put in tiny little sounds that you wouldn't even notice. One of them being like a Yoshi sound. And you wouldn't notice unless we told you that it was there and you went looking for it. But yeah, we're very much into our audio production and also how it kind of feels in your head. And I think that goes back to the kind of nightmare dream world kind of thing as well.
Yeah, I mean, you've certainly sold it to me. Not that you needed to. I mean, through nothing else, just through the love I can see you've put into it. Because I mean, I'm a proper geek for music. Hence, I have a podcast and a
Yeah.
website and all this kind of stuff. But I mean, I love the attention to detail, the Easter eggs, the fact that you're concerned with the track list and how the album's going to flow, because we're going to talk about set lists in a moment, unbeknownst to yourself.
Yeah.
And you'll see that I've just got this passion for, I can see where care has been put into something rather than just all right, how do we get through the algorithms? How do we make this like as
Yeah.
popular as it can be without actually caring too much about it? I much prefer real
Yeah. And
music. Yeah.
exactly. And just to add to that, like that's definitely something we didn't want to do. Like we've never been obsessed with this whole algorithm thing and like getting loads of monthly listeners. Like I would genuinely rather know each person listening to it who actually genuinely enjoys it and genuinely loves it than seeing like so many hundreds of thousands of monthly listeners that might not necessarily care. They might just have it on in the background and things like that. So yeah, like that you hit it on the head. Yeah, it's for people who genuinely just want an experience and just want to actually, I don't know, grow with us if they want to, you know.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I love to hear it and just love that passion and obviously encourage the
Mm.
listeners again to do my salesman part for you, to check it
Thank you.
out. 27th of September it's out. It'll be obviously across all the streaming platforms. Just jump on it straight away and like you've said, Ciaran, just give it the love and listen to it from start to finish, listen to it as a whole, which
Yeah,
is just so
and I mean,
important.
I don't expect everyone to like this. And like, just this is like totally sideways. But like, for example, we got like another review recently of it, and it wasn't great. But to be honest, we didn't really mind too much because like it's not for everyone, and we accept that. But if we can find the people who it's supposed to, who are supposed to need it or supposed to not even know that it exists and just come across it, and it helps them just that even one tiny bit, like that means more to us than anything, you know.
Yeah, no, that is a beautiful philosophy to have, absolutely. And I'd say listeners definitely need to check that out.
Yeah, thank you.
We've talked about the recorded side of the industry, and I always like to flip the podcast over now and start to talk about the live side of the industry, because obviously they go
Cool.
hand in hand, and there's benefits to both. But we all love getting into a sweaty club and going to a live show. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
And I know that you did that this past week because you had the release show in Dublin for the album. So I mean, how did that show go?
It was amazing. Like I don't think I felt as confident playing live as I ever did there. I think that because honestly, I'm such a shy person. Like if I meet a new person for the first time, I'm not gonna just open up instantly. But I don't know, something about the vibe of that crowd who were there for that. It was so special. And as well, I think it was definitely sweaty. You got that right. There was even people singing. There was way more people than I expected singing songs that I didn't even know they had listened to, and I think that was really special as well. Some people had traveled from like as far away as Germany and things like that, which was again super special. So yeah, like it was a great show. We really enjoyed it. I think one quote that I can give you is that Mikey came off stage and he was like, "I actually smiled throughout that whole thing," and that's when you know it's a good show.
Oh, excellent. I love that that's your barometer for a decent show. Does Mikey smile? Yeah, fantastic. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure,
Yeah,
it sounds like such an incredible like moment that will live long in the band's memory. But this industry as well is
for
about
sure.
making new memories. So obviously there's not much in the diary from what I can tell at the moment. The question is from me, is there hopes, is there plans to try and to get out and play some more shows and support the album?
Absolutely. Honestly, like aside from obviously creating the music itself, like I suppose we can say that from the release side, we're not the most like with it with that kind of stuff, like you said, with algorithms and things like that. But as far as playing live and actually creating, we love it. And definitely there's definitely plans to add a bunch of shows. We've already talked about so maybe some UK shows in the summer next year. So which actually we got over there for the first time, got in since before COVID. Um, just not long ago. I think it was in like May or June or something like that, and we had the best time. It was so much fun. But yeah, definitely big plans to come back over and hopefully get to some Europe shows. We'll see. So maybe mainland Germany, especially considering people have been traveling from
Yeah.
there. We definitely need to pay back the favor. But yeah, definitely, we're really excited to play more shows for sure.
Excellent, because that allows me to segue where I normally go next and point listeners in the direction of social media, because in 2024, that's where we get our news when it comes to live shows and everything these days. So obviously, the best way
Yeah,
for listeners to know when those shows get announced, where the band are going to be playing, is by following the band. And I always give out the social handles. And I've actually been on quite a hot streak of bands doing me the favor of having just one social handle to read out, which just makes my life so much easier. And it is Light
yeah,
Grey Band, which is a pretty simple one as well. No underscores or any silliness in
yeah,
there. So yeah, listeners, again, links
yeah.
in the bio. Follow the band to stay up to date. Um,
And
and
with the handle as well, we we have the unfortunate. Actually, I saw Ben Biss from As It Is tweet the other day saying that their search optimization or whatever for As It
mm,
Is the worst. But I would argue that ours is even worse because if you search light gray, obviously the color comes up. But
true.
then if you search light gray band, up comes Apple Watch wristbands that are gray.
True. Yeah, actually, that is such a good point. That is such a good point. Yeah. Yeah, and it's such a tricky one these days. I mean, a band that I've always sprung to my mind when it comes to who has got the worst name for obviously searching on social media is the band A. They're
Oh
literally,
yeah, that's the
yeah,
worst,
it's
right?
it's just like, what on earth do you put with that, to make that come up? Like, because if you put a
Yeah,
band, again, it's just like, oh, there's thousands of bands. What band you on about, mate?
yeah.
Well, a, but yeah, I think you're up there with them definitely with that.
Oh,
So
for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Did a good job picking a color. Well done, Mikey. Yeah.
Oh, well, at least you've locked down some decent social handles. So hopefully the
Yeah,
fans will
for sure.
find it, and obviously, a few more hopefully might find it from clicking in the links in the bio of this episode. So definitely go and do that,
Yeah,
listeners.
100%.
So to just finish whetting the appetite for obviously everything coming up, we finish off the podcast always with a segment called Setlist Science. So here's where we're going to talk about set lists. Again, I'm a massive geek. I will, watch what bands are playing, what songs they've picked to play, what order they're playing them in, if they're doing anything special around the
Yeah.
songs. And I obviously, again, I much prefer bands that I can see have made a bit of an effort than the ones that just obviously just like, oh yeah, we'll play the same set list for the next 10 years and not bother changing it. Um, so for yourself, the question of this segment is quite simple. It's how much importance do you place into the structure of your set lists, and have you got any rules that you tend to follow?
Yeah, like again, going back to even the album itself, we always think about, how we're setting that up. And it's no different from our set list. The only thing I will say is that our set list changes all the time. Like every single show is totally unique. So anyone who gets to see us is seeing a completely different show to the next person. Um, so like the only thing we do tend to think about is poor old Mikey. There's one song that has a drop tuning. So we always try kind of work that in somewhere in the middle so he doesn't have to do it too many times. That's the only thing that we actually have to really think about. We always add a cover in the middle of the set, and it tends to be like either Year 3000 by Busted or Shake It by Metro Station. And the reason we do that isn't because like, we particularly want to do a cover, or it's more so just because we know what it's like being at a show when you don't know any of the songs and you're seeing this band for the first time. And what's really special about those two songs, so many people know them and they're kind of guilty pleasures for a lot
Yeah.
of people. So my favorite thing is seeing someone new see us for the first time and they're enjoying it, but they could be enjoying it way more. Then we play one of those songs and they're totally in with us for the rest of the set. They're like, okay, cool, I'm ready to go. I totally get it now. This is what they're all about. So yeah, that's something really special. It's always in our set list as well. And specifically for Year 3000, we have played that at every single show since we started, even when we were like playing these like really small shows where we didn't even know what we were doing. We could barely play our instruments and things like that. So yeah, that one's pretty special as well.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. It's such a ingenious idea, and like I can just actually imagine standing in that crowd. I've been in those crowds, and then obviously, yeah,
Yeah.
something like that that then just makes it click a little bit more and go, oh yeah, and yeah, talk
Yeah.
about guilty pleasures. I mean, obviously, Busted quite famously this year played Download Festival, and obviously, I've been a
Yeah.
regular at Download Festival for about 20 years now because I'm getting old, and obviously 20 years ago
No.
they would have been bottled off the stage. There'd have been so much hate, the
Oh,
fans
for
probably would have
sure.
ripped
Yeah.
the stage down. This time I'm stood there, you couldn't even get near the tent. Everyone's having like a great time, and it's just I mean, it was nice to think how much music fans have actually progressed a little bit in 20 years and actually more
Yeah.
welcoming and that sort of thing. But yeah, Year 3000, what a tune. And
Banger.
yeah, I love as well that you mix the set list up every show, because again it keeps it
Yeah.
interesting. As someone that for some reasons, because I love to do it, but I do see some bands multiple times on a tour, and when it's the same set list,
Yeah.
it is like, all right, well I know what's coming now, But yeah, I like that surprise. So no, kudos to you for that, and obviously credit as well
Oh, thanks so much.
for everything we've talked about. I can see the passion and love that's gone into it all, and hopefully listeners have picked up on that as well. And out of that again, just to pick that salesman hat up again, hopefully they'll go away, check out the videos, check out the songs, check out the
Yeah,
album
please
on the
do.
27th. Come and see the band live as and when shows get announced. And yeah, just get on board with Light Grey is my message, and spread the word, because they're going to be hard to find on the internet. So definitely, yeah, that's my final message. I always give the final message low to the guests. So what would be your final message for the listeners today, Ciaran?
Yeah. Honestly, thanks so much for having us. And I think like my final message is again, just go through that album, like from start to finish, take it in. Really like try build your own story from behind it. If it's your thing, amazing. You're exactly who we want to find. If it's not, that's okay. Like at least hang out with us. We're fun guys. Yeah, honestly, like thank you so much for having us, and we're super excited for everyone to hear the tracks.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait for them to either. Thank you so much, Ciaran, for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Well, thank you everyone for listening. I really do hope you enjoyed that chat there with Light Grey. Remember to check out their single Director's Cut on our Discover New Music playlist on Spotify, and of course, follow the band across social media to stay up to date with everything coming from them. You can also stay up to date with Full Pelt. We're on Facebook at Full Pelt and on Twitter and Instagram at Full Pelt Music. And again, if you would, please do hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, wherever you're watching or listening, because we'll be back very soon with another episode of the Discover New Music podcast.